It's really good being here. Yeah, I love the you know what? Echo. I think I should. I'm going to put on headphones if I may. May change that a bit. Um, but I love being here. I love having the opportunity to speak to you all, and I think that it'll be great fun. You know, I'm hearing myself coming back through, and so it's irritating. So I'm just going to talk without listening for a while, if that's okay. um, I think that one of the questions that we have coming up to us very soon is whether we should take the green pill or the red pill. Meaning, are we real or are we in a simulation? I mean, the reality is that we don't know what reality is anymore. But in terms of virtual reality, think about it that we are just in the Pong phase of virtual reality. Um, if you look at the time frame between Pong and photorealistic game images, it was less than 40 years. So if we're the Pong generation, if we're at the Pong level of virtual reality, I believe that within 35, maybe 40 years, we will have virtual reality that is indistinguishable from reality. Then that asks the question of what is reality and where is here. So I think we're going to be on a very, very interesting roller coaster ride for the next 30 years as we get more and more into simulated universes. And of course, as a hacker, I love that. As you can see, I'm in my laboratory. This is my happy place. I can solder, I have test equipment, I have enough parts that my kids say that I could build a space shuttle with the parts I have here if they wanted to. I think that's a bit of an over exaggeration, but having a having a few transistors and resistors, and you know, I've probably got 20 Arduinos right now hooked up to various things, uh, and uh, and I think that the hacker mentality is really important. Why? It turns out that our brains are very, very plastic, and that we can adjust our IQ, build our intelligence, build our capabilities to any level that we want. So if you think of yourself as being an IQ of 20, no, nobody thinks of themselves if it's 20. Uh, but if you're at 80 or 85, I believe that it's highly probable that with work and diligence and hacking, you could bring yourself up to 130, 135. If you start out at 120, 130, and I'd be willing to bet that most of you in this room already have added as much as 15 points to your basal IQ, the one that you were born with. So my hat's off to all you really smart people, and I love the fact that hacking is probably one of the most neurogenic things that you can do. Besides that, I've in video game design, I didn't realize for many years, but we are actually able to put people into ultimate happiness. And the ultimate happiness is where you're working on a problem that is solvable, but not too easy. And so in video games, without knowing it, as we leveled up each time made the challenge harder as your skills increased. What we were doing is we were keeping you in the flow zone. We were keeping you happy. And, with all the endorphins that your body secretes, by having problems that were solvable and but not too hard. That's sort of what hacking is about. Every day when we start to work on our project, it's solvable. We know it is. We know the technology is there. We can hack the technology. We can do fun things. But while we're doing it, we're actually ultimately happy. Have you ever stopped to think about how much happier you are than most of the people that are around you who are just eating pizza, drinking beer? Of course, while you're in Germany, you get to drink really good beer. But anyway, I'm going to be in Germany in March, and I love Germany. I think that my son and I went driving through the countryside, and there's so many fun little villages. Have a few rooms up over a cafe. It's a good lifestyle.
Right.
What in the early days of Atari, we couldn't figure out where the technology was going, but we always wanted to push the technology as hard as we could. And we found that the minute we made a breakthrough in the technology, we were able to add a whole bunch of new games that weren't really able to be created before. Today, as a game designer, we never really think about the kinds of games, the kinds of technology. We always say, gee, the technology can do whatever we wish to do. In the early days, we had to almost fit the technology or the game to the technology that we had. I like to say, with the Atari 2600, it wasn't that we thought that quarter-inch pixels were cool. It's that was the only thing that we could do. 128 bytes of RAM, not very many. That's not kilobytes. That's bytes of RAM. So you guys are lucky. You don't have to, count your memory points. You don't have to worry about, squeezing everything into 2 kilobytes of read-only memory. You know, there's this old saying that I hiked up, on the way to school, I hiked through snow 3 feet deep, going uphill in both directions, and I liked it that way. So whenever some of us old guys talk about how hard the technology was in the olden days, I think it's a little bit like that. But I think that the technology today is so cool, and the ability to put things together in unique and fun ways. I just salute you as hackers and people who are making the technology move forward at all times. Are there some questions that some people would like to ask me? Go ahead.
Yeah, do you hear me?
I do.
Yeah, okay, I think I have to shout a bit. I'm okay, now the mic's on.
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right, all right. Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us, and greetings from the HACKVENTION in Germany. And thanks for letting us, sharing time with us and letting us have a look into your so-called happy room. Yeah, looks quite well organized up there.
It's actually, my kids think it looks like a bomb just went off in here. But
well, it's
but
not
I know
that bad. It's not that bad. All right, yeah, and we're really looking forward to meeting you in person here in Germany on CeBIT in March.
Oh, we'll have great fun. Are there any questions from the group?
Yeah.
Or are we out of time?
No, not so quickly. But to warm up, could you tell us a bit about your current activities and modal VR? I see you wearing your hat again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I had to turn it into a little bit of a commercial. Modal VR is a technology and a infrastructure. Whenever there's the beginning parts of a business, what you want to be able to do is bring everything together in such a way that you solve problems. So, for example, if a football team wants to run plays in virtual reality, because football, what we Americans call soccer, is a sport which requires a tremendous amount of situational awareness. So, where does a soccer team go to find the technology so that they can practice in virtual reality? What we want to do is be that group that provides solutions, and then they're not always our solutions. So let's say that you guys want to write virtual reality software. Let's say you're pretty good at Unity, maybe pretty good at Unreal, and you've created an environment of fun and games. Then the question is, where is your market? And a lot of companies won't want to buy software from companies that don't have support. And so we sort of are that group in the middle. Our technology can track 10 people in an area as large as a football pitch. We can set up and tear down in less than 10 minutes. So you can take it to a literal football pitch, have 10 people running around in virtual reality. They can see each other. They're each other's icons because we can do full body tracking with them as well. And the I wished I've got. Well, I don't want to do this on the fly, but I've actually should have sent a slideshow that I have and a couple of things. Go into the modalvr.com and look at some of our little videos there. We've got one game, which is Mythic Combat. And it is an environment where two people are superheroes standing on top of buildings. One is throwing fireballs at the other person, the other or plasma balls. The other person is throwing lightning, and you have to move and run around in order to dodge the games. It's a workout. It's great fun, and as long as you don't fall off the tops of the skyscrapers, you're doing fine. Unless you get hit by a plasma ball and all your life forces are taken out. Then, of course, just because we had to, we created a human Pong, in which you are the paddle, and you can run back and forth against another player, and playing the game of Pong, but now in virtual reality. And so that's why I say we're at the Pong phase of virtual reality. And, whether we're talking about the Matrix or other synthetic universes, I really see the day when we can't determine the difference between ourselves and the holodeck. How many of you are Star Trek fans? I mean, I've I've mentioned holodeck on a couple of really groups of young college kids, and about a third of the kids didn't know what I was talking about when I talked about the holodeck. I was offended. How in the world could you grow up and be a human being in today's world and not be a Trekkie a little bit? Not necessarily the old black and white ones, but the holodeck. Gee, that's one of the firm constructs. As a hacker, and virtual reality and synthetic reality is going to be so much a part of your world. And modal VR, we want to make everything easy for you, and we want to help you market any software that you create, any hardware ideas that you have. For example, there will be a company that will be the ultimate weapons manufacturer for virtual reality, because you want to be able to have synthetic weapons that work well in virtual reality, but yet are not a problem in real world. Because if you're running around in a soccer field with an AK-47 in the United States, you'd probably get arrested, and I imagine that would be the case in Germany as well. So we've got to be able to create synthetic items, whether they be weapons, tools, artifices, and we will have some fun with it. Any other questions?
All right, yeah, that's thanks a lot. So the question now is, will you bring Modal VR's technology to CeBIT now that you teased it to us?
I'm not sure if we're going. I mean, I'm going to bring a lot of the things, but I'm not sure if I'm going to bring my crew to CeBIT. But maybe we're going to think about it. I'm actually in conversations with a German company right now that we may have a local presence.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. We all are. So you named gaming a lot, and of course you're called the godfather of gaming as the creator of Pong. But what else do you see, or which direction do you see taking VR in business? Where do you see, in which business field do you see VR creating most value?
Well, I think that there's so many directions. For example, the mobile app right now is probably an extremely saturated market, and so you have to do more than just have a really good game to be good in mobile. I'm currently working with a company in Amsterdam called Spill Games, and we're designing a series of games, some saga games. Think of it as Candy Crush, but much better. And we're doing some other games that are kind of interesting. But here's an idea for you. How many of you have played Settlers of Catan? Any hands? Yeah, see, I knew it would, because it turns out that there are a whole bunch of really great board games that are coming out of Germany right now. And my youngest son has $100 a month habit on these complex, really weird, wonderful games. What about Dungeons and Dragons? How many people have been playing Dungeons and Dragons in the past? Okay, here's $1 million idea for you. Are you acquainted with the Amazon Echo or the Google Home? Aha. Okay, look up Amazon Echo, and what it is, it's a voice-mediated system that really, really is easy to understand. For example, this is an Amazon Echo Dot. And I can say, Alexa, what is the weather in Germany today?
Which location was that? I'm best with a specific city in Germany.
What is the weather in Hanover?
I couldn't find a forecast for that location.
Alexa, what is the weather in Frankfurt, Germany?
In Frankfurt, Germany, it's 36 degrees with clear skies. Tonight, you can look for mostly clear skies, with a low of 25 degrees.
Alexa, what is a hacker?
In the computer security context, a hacker is someone who seeks and exploits weaknesses in a computer system or computer network.
Alexa, what is a hacker that's a nice guy?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question I heard.
So anyway, it turns out that the API is available for the Echo. And even though it's probably not in Germany yet because they probably don't understand, it probably doesn't understand German yet, but there's over 3 million of these units been shipped already. And some people say that it's double that. I don't know what the actual number is, but I believe that this is going to be a platform that is very, very powerful in the future. So think about a voice-mediated game that is controlled by the voice and by the Echo and or the Google Home, because Google just got in the business with a thing called Google Home that hooks into their AI in the cloud. So can we have Alexa be a dungeon master? This is where some creativity needs to come in. And the reason that I like this is because if you were to create a game that is Alexa mediated, oh, I just triggered her, I'm sorry. Alexa is the keyword that makes her start to listen. And she's querying me right now. Anyway, I got to tell you a funny thing. When I first got Alexa could understand me better than my wife, and my wife got so mad she thought that the Alexa was flirting with me. But anyway, that's another story. That's a problem that we're going to have in the future. You know, how many of you saw Ex Machina? The Ex Machina, wasn't that a great movie? I mean, talk about anyway. I thought, of course, Alexia Vikander is really fun to watch anyway. But being outside the box is a very important thing for hackers to do. We as a group need to be crazy. That's what we are here for. A lot of times we can afford to take risks on crazy projects because we only have to sell a few thousand to make a nice living. Whereas Apple, a few thousand would be an abject failure. But Apple knows that the hacker community is going to build the next great product. And so they will be looking for you, and instead of copying what you're doing, they'll come in and buy you. And that's what a lot of Silicon Valley is designed to be. We create companies for sometimes the big companies to buy. And then we're very happy, and then we don't have to run a company, which actually is boring. The technology is fun. The running the company is actually boring. That's why I sell companies after 5 years. Because after 5 years, if you're successful, you spend all your time with attorneys and lawyers and accountants and all the boring people. Whereas when you're working on the technology, you can keep working on fun stuff and being around fun people. Any more ideas or questions?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Nolan, especially for the $1 million idea. I think I saw some people taking notes. Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
you know, just so you'll know, our family gets together every Christmas, and we're going to go in a big. We've got an 11-bedroom house that I've got 8 children, and they're all pretty technical. And one of our things in the 2 weeks that we're going to spend together over holidays is we're going to design an Alexa app, and so we'll be in competition, but you know, we'll be in the market before you guys. Maybe not, but I'm convinced that there will be a couple of $1 million apps created within the next 12 months using Echo as part of the infrastructure.
All right, so voice-controlled VR apps. We're going to take notes and save this for the next Hackvention, I think.
Okay, excellent.
All right, so let's collect some questions from the crowd. Just give us a second. So,
Cool.
who has any questions? Yeah, so people seem to be shy. So I ask another one. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you that these are the early days of VR, and I think this is, yeah, as you said, the Pong phase of VR, and it's really like the business opportunities are out there and wait for us to take them. And are there any? I mean, we're a crowd of hackers, and I was asking myself if you have any advice on how to get from hacking to actually building a company. Do you have any advice for founders how to take it from just a prototype to a company?
Yes. The first advice is don't try to go to too big a market. When somebody comes to me and wants some funding, and they say everybody's going to want this, it scares me because it is so expensive to market to everybody. Whereas if you can find a small subset, you know, say left-handed chess players, it's very easy to find left-handed chess players. So if you have something that is really unique for them, your marketing cost is very small because they are all looking for something that's unique. So start somewhat small. The second thing is there's a very big gap between what the world is ready for and the future. And the future sometimes is scary. And if you get too far in the future, people are not ready for it. I've had 2 business failures because I was ahead of the market and ahead of the technology, in which the technology was too costly or not reliable enough. And that's always an issue. But think about some of the things that you can do with virtual reality from a software standpoint. And there's a book. I don't know if it's in German yet, but if you guys probably all read English, but it's called The Brain That Changes Itself. And it's all about how your neuroplasticity, how you can really change things. So I actually believe that substance abuse and addictions are going to be able to be treated in virtual reality because you can have full sensory immersion into a synthetic environment. So, for example, and so think about a virtual reality app that treats substance abuse in virtual reality. That's a small market. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. Probably I'd be willing to bet that addiction treatment is probably 100 billion euros. I mean, it's a targeted market, and yet it's a big market. And so, if you can build a virtual reality app that can successfully treat addiction, you'll have a billion-dollar company. I don't know that much about substance abuse, but I believe that if you have some kind of knowledge of that, somebody, say your girlfriend or boyfriend, has that kind of training, then it can work. That's just an example of what I'd call a niche market that may be outside the mainstream. The entertainment uses of virtual reality are obvious. I mean, there's going to be rail shooters. There's going to be running around, synthetic paintball, synthetic laser tag. Of course, there's also going to be a lot of shooting of zombies because zombies need to be shot. And there's going to be a whole bunch of games that are gauntlet-like, and those are always going to be great fun. And then there's going to be training games for sports, situational awareness. There's going to be training for law enforcement and the military and homeland security, and how to flip a burger at Burger King or McDonald's. The training apps are going to be another multi-billion-dollar market. So think of a niche, do some training apps in virtual reality, and cut the training costs for every company. Think of safety. There's an awful lot of training for safety because certain equipment, certain manufacturing process, certain occupations have danger associated, and you can mitigate the danger through proper training. Another billion-dollar opportunity. Think about architecture. Anytime there's a large amount of capital to be deployed, the better you can give the experience of walking through a building before it's built so that you can make the changes before they actually have to be torn down and rebuilt. That's a big business. How do you easily put AutoCAD or the latest architectural software into a virtual reality experience? Those are the areas that I would push if I were looking to build a business into virtual reality.
All right, thanks for the advice. And next question from the crowd would be, so we have been talking about virtual reality a lot now, but how do you see the potential of augmented reality as opposed to virtual reality?
I like augmented reality a lot. And the obvious place that augmented reality becomes very interesting is in board games, in sitting around with a bunch of your friends, because virtual reality is isolating. Augmented reality allows you to have a shared experience. If you look into game theory, there's a whole class of games that are called hidden personal perspective, shared public perspective. That is, as a player, I have a secret, and you have a secret. And so think of poker. With poker, there is a hidden personal perspective. I can see my cards. You can't see I can't see your cards. And so part of the game is mentally figuring out what cards you're going to play, what cards you have, what cards I have. Augmented reality allows us to give different personal perspectives to each player. But now, instead of a flat board in front of us, we now have a mountain that we can deal with, in which you can see the other side of the mountain. I can't see the other side of the mountain. There's just all kinds of creativity that we can create in virtual reality. Of course, virtual reality is training, particularly on equipment, in which we have synthetic overlays on a piece of equipment for training, is going to be a huge market. I think somebody said that there is not enough lift capacity on a 747 to carry the documentation around the 747. That means that if you're working on a 747, you really want to have all that documentation available to you in an augmented reality environment. Of course, augmented reality, and even though Google Glass sort of failed, I think as we get glasses in which we have heads-up display and virtual reality overlays, I think that the next big platform for the computer wearable will in fact be the glasses, in which as you're walking down the street, you'll get voice or face recognition of the people you pass. You'll see advertisements for the shops that you pass. You'll be directed to the appropriate subway stop or train stop. All of these things will be automatic, in context, part of your virtual reality environment. I think that the main virtual reality marketplace is going to really emerge once we have ubiquitous heads-up displays in terms of wearables, and where everyone has a pair of glasses and or contact lenses that give a virtual reality or an augmented reality experience.
So, taking it from what you just said, how far is the immersion
Uh-oh, I
going to go?
can't hear you.
You can hear me? Now
Hello?
again?
Oh, now
Oh,
I
yeah.
can
Sorry,
hear you
I
now.
forgot to unmute the mic. So taking it from what you just said with ubiquitous HMDs or contact lenses even, there was another question from the audience. How far is the immersion going to go? You referred to the matrix like in the beginning of your talk with the red or the blue pill or red or green pill. And I mean, how far are we going to be immersed, let's say 50 or 100 years from now? Aren't we, I mean, how close to the matrix are we going to get with virtual reality?
I think, I think it's as close as 20 years. And I think that 40 years at the worst case. And when we're talking about the matrix, what we're really talking about is a reality that is indistinguishable, in which virtual reality is indistinguishable from reality. You know, where I think there will be a new kind of Turing test, and it'll be, can you tell whether you're in reality or in a virtual reality? And I believe that there will be technology that will pass that test within 20 years. And you know what? It's not going to be visual. It's not going to be audio. It's going to be haptics. Haptics will be the lagger. We know we can simulate smell. We know we can simulate, a concept of space, which is sometimes thought of as the seventh sense. But haptics, we have nerve endings all over our body. We have inner ears that give us a really good sense. They're our accelerometers. So I think we can totally fool the smell. We can totally fool vision. We can totally fool sound. I think that the internal accelerometer and the full conductance of our skin will be the hardest part. But I think those will all be solved.
All right. When you were just referring to the Turing test for reality, I was just thinking about Inception. I don't know if you have seen that movie, but you should definitely watch it. If not, okay, great. Thanks a lot, Nolan, for your time and sharing your thoughts with us here in Germany. And as I said, we're really looking forward to meeting you in March here in Hanover, and I hope you bring the technology that Modal VR builds with you. And yeah, and I'm getting back to you on that beer. You owe me one.
Well, one of the nice things about actually being there, and the part that's going to be also hard to pass the Bushnell test for reality, is a good German beer.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
See you. Have a nice day.
Good, guys.
Goodbye.